One blockbuster hearing is in the books, and now another is on the way.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions will now testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday.
I'm calling for an end to the investigations about President Trump's campaign colluding with the Russians.
Senator Dianne Feinstein, she said after Comey's testimony, she has questions for former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who allegedly told the FBI director to call the Clinton email investigation a matter.
I think we need to know more about that.
Just a matter of hours, the Supreme Court could rule on whether to enforce President Trump's travel order.
The First family reunited. First Lady Melania Trump and son Barron officially moving into the White House.
Images of blood-splattered fake bomb belts are the latest bits of evidence to be released by London police in the wake of the attack 1 week ago.
Corporate sponsors rushing to drop taxpayer-funded Shakespeare in the Park. This after the play portrayed President Trump being brutally assassinated.
The Pittsburgh Penguins again are the Stanley Cup champions.
Look at that. We see Ivanka's name.
Right. She'll be with us 1 hour from right now. And, of course, down in Washington, D.C., everybody's talking about what the big Comey hearing last week. And, in fact, the big story out of Washington is James Comey is probably going to write a book. And everybody wants to publish the book because they think that he's got more beans to spill, although he seemed to spill a lot of beans from his point of view last week.
I wonder in the book will we see the memos?
Right.
The House Intelligence Committee is asking for those memos. They have reached out to the White House counsel, Don McGahn, asking them for James Comey's memos, and also sent a letter to Comey asking for the memos. Deadline is June 23rd, so we'll see.
Why do I have a hunch that he only took notes with President Trump and not with President Obama? Because they only met together twice and nothing significant happened. He already indicated that unless things happen, I don't really jot things down. That's one thing I'm curious about.
It all depends on what you define notes as. Something could be notes, something could be from a diary, and then it's like, well, these are the only notes I've got. But I've got the stuff from the diary regarding Loretta Lynch, but that's a different thing.
We were at Yankee Stadium yesterday for Fox Fan Day. We'll talk about that coming up. But I talked to some of the folks that watch our show, and they were like, do you remember when Paul Ryan last week said, you got to give this president a break. He's a business guy. You know, he went in there and he said as a friend, you know, can you just cut this guy some slack? He was a general. I really like him. Comey agreed. I really like him. He said that was his message. That's what they thought the message was.
Sure.
And they're saying, the president, come on. He's a businessman. Let him, you know, he's only been in for a few months.
And we're going to get to that. It's not going to be what they think. It's not going to be what we think. It's going to be what Robert Mueller ultimately thinks. Was it a obstruction of justice? Meanwhile, let's talk about what's going to be happening this week. At some point, Attorney General Sessions is expected to go to Capitol Hill Tuesday. And at some point, we don't know if it's behind closed doors. We don't know if it's going to be an open-air setting.
I think open.
Right?
Initially.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I'm not sure if he's committed to doing that, at which time he's going to be asked to explain why he met, if indeed he did, with Ambassador Kislyak of Russia 3 times. What you discussed. If I'm Sessions, I would say, oh, by the way, if that is indeed true, I got to go to the other ambassadors I saw from other countries because I'm this thing called a U.S. senator.
Sure. Keep in mind, a lot of these things where they said he met with them, it was simply there was an event. They shook hands.
Right.
That counts as a meeting in Washington, D.C. So anyway, because there is such a swirl surrounding the President of the United States and Jeff Sessions to testify tomorrow, the President, over the weekend, hired a brand-new attorney. His name is Jay Sekulow. You know him. You've seen him on TV a million times here on the channel. He will essentially be the TV face of the legal Trump team.
By the way, can I just say this? Good choice. Oh, my goodness,
absolutely.
is he strong.
Well, not only you, Brian, but the president himself thinks Sekulow does a good job defending the president on TV. He has argued over a dozen cases before the Supreme Court. He was on the ABC Weekend Roundup show yesterday, and he had this to say about could the president possibly fire the special counsel. Watch.
You look at the issue and say, then what is the role of the special counsel here? And the special counsel allowed James Comey to testify. James Comey said he reviewed his testimony with the special counsel. I think this is unprecedented, where the testimony was reviewed, it was then discussed, and then it was part of that testimony, a large part
So are you
was based on
suggesting
leaked
there,
information.
will the president promise not to interfere, not attempt at any time to order the Deputy Attorney General to fire Robert Mueller?
I mean, George, if there was a basis upon which there was a question raised that raised the kind of issues that are serious, as in the situation with James Comey, the president has authority to take action.
The president, thank goodness he has the money to hire attorneys, because you got to fight back in these situations. If Mueller's going after him and his character, he's saying, I'm going to fight back, because he says there is no investigation here. The FBI, James Comey, former FBI director, said 3 times in his meetings with him.
Yes,
we're
Mr.
not
President,
investigating
you're
you.
not under investigation. And so far, and they've been investigating for over a year, there has been no evidence of collusion. But we know, and we were talking to the author of the book that came out a couple months ago called Shattered. On the night Hillary Clinton lost the presidency, it was devised by Robbie Mook and John Podesta that they would say that essentially Russia hacked the election and blamed the Russians, and they continued that narrative to today. And look how it's manifested itself. It's extraordinary.
One of the most extraordinary underreported things, not unreported, but underreported things that came out of James Comey's testimony was, I knew, after I found out what the president thought and what he tweeted out, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said to myself, I got to go get my side of the story out. I'm going to call my professor at Columbia, who called the New York Times, and this anonymous source close to James Comey was James Comey, and they put together, he gave up his diary notes, and they put together what he said happened between him and the president. And then at the end of it, he said, and I knew if I released this, it would result in a special counsel. Oh, really? Guess who's running the special counsel? Your buddy Robert Mueller. I know he's got this great reputation, but they've worked together for 30 years, and hand in hand. So he says, wait a second, you put this out there to get a special counsel, and now the president's got to feel as though he's going to get a fair shake at this? Well, this is dangerous, especially if you look at the quality of criminal attorneys. This guy's putting together a murderer's row of criminal attorneys that is going to examine the Trump administration.
He hired Michael Dreeben. On a part-time basis. His specialty is criminal matters. He has argued 100 cases plus before the Supreme Court, so he's extremely prepared. Then Andrew Wiseman, also, he was the chief of the fraud section of DOJ's criminal division. He was also hired by Mueller. So the president is saying,
legal studs.
Exactly. So the president is saying, I'm going to fight back. And he thinks he's innocent, so he says, I'm fighting.
As well he should. And clearly Mr. Comey was trying to work the refs in the form of Robert Mueller. He was trying to say, look at all this stuff I'm going to show you on TV. It was obstruction of justice. And essentially, that's what he's trying to push, is that particular case. Newt Gingrich was on yesterday on Fox News Sunday and said, look, ultimately, at the end of the day, as you look at the back of our heads, the investigators in this thing, you can't trust them.
First of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump, including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in 2 major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I distrust independent counsels. I think that the people Mueller's bringing in are dangerous people, and any Republican who thinks this counsel is going to be neutral is crazy. It'll be like expecting the Post or the New York Times to be accurate.
That is as focused and as intense as I've seen Newt Gingrich in a long time. He is absolutely convinced it could go awry. Meanwhile, let's talk about Loretta Lynch and what came out under the Comey testimony. He says, yeah, I was concerned back in July when Loretta Lynch said to me, he said, James Comey, just to review, hey, I got to go in front of Congress, Senate subcommittee, and I was wondering, you don't mind, I'm going to call this investigation and update everybody on what I'm doing with Hillary Clinton. And Loretta Lynch says, hey, wait a second. Don't use the term investigation. Use the term matter. And everybody's fireworks went off and said, wait a second. You said that behind closed doors. Now you're saying in front of everyone. Why aren't we looking into that?
Even Democrats, Dianne Feinstein, top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, she has called yesterday for an investigation into the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Listen to this.
I would have a queasy feeling, too, though, to be candid with you. I think we need to know more about that. And there's only one way to know about it, and that's to have the Judiciary Committee take a look at that.
Were you all surprised by that?
And believe me, look for the Republicans, and with the Democratic support, it seems, to go heavily, the Judiciary Committee especially, to go heavily after this Lynch connection. Because there's a memo out there, evidently from the DNC to the Attorney General, that says whatever you do, don't go ahead and go after Hillary Clinton. They're going to ask to see that memo. If it doesn't exist, they want to know why. Perhaps it was brought up behind closed doors.
There is talk that it might be fake, so we'll have to see what this investigation brings forth. But James Comey last week did say that Lynch had asked him to downplay the investigation as merely a matter. This is not an investigation into Hillary Clinton. Please call it a matter.
Because that's politics.
And when James Comey tried to convince Congress, the reason I'm reopening this email thing is because of this memo that shows a collusion between the Department of Justice and the DNC. He never specified, Lindsey Graham said yesterday, that it might be fake. And so that's the thing. So is it a fake memo? Is it fake news? What is it? Maybe we'll find out if they get to the bottom of Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, let's see Comey's notes on that. Meanwhile, let's see what Jillian's been taking notes on.
Hey, how was your weekend?
Good morning.
The weekend was good. How about you guys?
Great.
Good weekend?
Good, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we do have a Fox News alert to get to right now. Another frightening scene on a plane. Terrifying moments as thousands of feet in the air this happened. A plane packed with people forced to make an emergency landing overnight after a massive hole rips open in the engine during takeoff.
Left engine made a funny sound like a dropped a piston or something.
Some of our friends that were with us smelled burning. It got really loud and it was like then they started moving everyone from the left side of the plane over and shutting the windows.
Feel blessed that it wasn't much worse than it looked.
We really had no idea.
The China Eastern flight headed to Shanghai forced to circle for an hour before landing safely back in Sydney. The cause of the damage is under investigation. In just hours, the Supreme Court could rule on whether to enforce President Trump's border order. The issue is the pause on citizens from Muslim-majority nations about religion or national security. The Trump administration says the executive order puts America first and will allow time to come up with a tougher vetting process. Now, those against it have until 3 this afternoon to file a response. The White House set to unveil a major program to revamp your workplace, and Ivanka Trump is leading the way. It's Workforce Development Week. The new actions will streamline current federal training programs and expand apprenticeships. The administration will also take steps to make those programs more cost efficient. Ivanka Trump will be joining us in the next hour right here on Fox and Friends to discuss it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And the First family reunited. First Lady Melania Trump and son Barron have officially moved into the White House. They were waiting for the 11-year-old to finish the school year in New York City. Melania tweeting this photo from inside the White House with the caption, "Looking forward to the memories we'll make in our new home." That's a look there at your headlines this morning, guys. So that's the moment that we've been talking about for a while, and it has officially happened.
Because he's out of school, and now they can move on down south.
And they're in D.C.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. 13 minutes after the hour. Today marks the 1-year anniversary since the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. Now a new documentary out tells the harrowing story of what happened that night in Orlando.
He called the news media and trying to let them know that, to get his message across, that America needs to stop bombing ISIS in Syria.
The filmmaker behind the documentary here live with the stories we have not heard.
And this high school student wanted to make his yearbook great again. If we drop the banner, you could see that he's wearing a Trump vest. Well, the school edited out Trump from the photo.
Just remember being in the very far corner and seeing everybody in front of me just drop one by one, like flies, like just everybody dropping to the floor.
Wow, today marks a year, believe it or not, since the deadliest terror attack on American soil since 9/11, when a man pledging allegiance to ISIS walked into an Orlando nightclub and killed 49 people and injured dozens more. Now a new documentary tells the story from the victims themselves. Charlie Min is that filmmaker behind 49 Pulses, and you can find out more about that on 49pulses.com. Charlie joins us right now. Charlie, what prompted you to go down there and recreate this moment and really examine what happened?
Well, Brian, I've made 23 documentaries since 2010, and most of them represent innocent people who have been murdered. I'm here to give them a voice.
Right, and what did you discover when you went down there?
Well, a lot of the victims are upset at the length of time. It took 3 hours and 12 minutes for the shooter to be taken down. In 1999, because of Columbine, the SWAT policy changed where you're supposed to go in and get the active shooter rather than surround and contain. So there's no excuse for this to happen in 2016.
Well, you have different things. For law enforcement, we'll leave it to the law enforcement experts. But in terms of the terrorist, who really is the guy that we should focus on, this guy swore allegiance to ISIS. He killed in the name of Allah. Why?
Well, we've been seeing this disturbing pattern, Brian. Look at all the incidents in the last few years, whether it's Paris, Brussels, Ariana Grande concert. Closer to home, we have Orlando, the Boston Marathon, San Bernardino. One way I think that we could beat ISIS is to not talk about them. I think it creates copycats. So every time ISIS is mentioned, we're feeding their ego. And again, it creates copycats. We have to stop talking about them and discrediting them.
That's very interesting because you do not mention the killer's name, the terrorist's name.
I don't mention in the movie, yes.
But we do know that Ramadan started, and guess what happened? We had 2 London attacks, attack in Paris. We might have had one in the Netherlands over the weekend. Here's some eyewitnesses talking about what it was like to go from a night of partying to a night of terror.
I found out later on, I think he had called the news media and trying to let them know that, you know, to get his message across, that America needs to stop bombing ISIS in Syria. When we heard that, we're like, oh my God, is this really what we're hearing?
When he said he had bombs to light up a city block, at that point, I started making peace with God and peace with myself.
When you went down there, obviously these people and others in the area, they're still traumatized by it, right?
Absolutely. Today being the one-year remembrance, that's what the victims want to call it. Just a few hours ago, 2 a.m. Eastern time, about 200 mourners were out at the Pulse. My cameraman was there getting some shots. So we're going to have a full day of remembrance to honor the victims today.
So awesome. Great. I'm so glad you're focusing on them because that's what it's about. We have to stop it. 49pulses.com to find out more. You're going to submit it to Sundance. Best of luck, Charlie.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, we move ahead. This high schooler wanted to make his yearbook great again, but the school edited out Trump from his photo. Now he's not the only one that's censored, who's a censored student, and he's going to be here live next. And a food critic says you shouldn't eat Chick-fil-A because of its Christian values, but his comments backfired again in a big way for Chick-fil-A.
Here's some quick headlines for you. Another arrest overnight in the London terror attack. British authorities arresting a 19-year-old man, marking the 21st arrest overall. This as we get our first look at the fake suicide vests that are worn by the 3 killers. Police say the blood-spattered belts made from plastic water bottles wrapped in duct tape were designed to create maximum fear. And terror leader Oscar Lopez Rivera cheered and booed while being honored at New York's Puerto Rican Day Parade. His terror group claimed responsibility for more than 100 bombings across the U.S. And while that was happening, Puerto Ricans overwhelmingly voted to become the 51st state. Congress has the final say on whether or not that happens. We'll have to see. Steve?
Thank you very much, Ainsley. A New Jersey high school student under fire after President Trump's name is removed from 2 students' yearbook photos. You can see them wearing the name on their clothing. And another student's quote from the president also excluded. Now, the school says they have no policy preventing students from expressing their political views. And it was all within the dress code. So what happened exactly? Joining us right now is one of those censored students, high school junior, Wyatt Dobrovich-Fago, joins us right here in Studio F. Wyatt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You got class a little later on today, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to make it, make it in time.
So tell us what you know. You got your yearbook when?
Last week at about Wednesday.
All right, and you opened it up, very excited to see that sweater that you're wearing right there.
Yes,
and what'd you see?
It wasn't there. It was cropped out of the yearbook, as well as my sister's quote was cropped out of the, was not put into the yearbook.
Right. And we can put up the images. It wasn't just that your photo was cropped. Somebody photoshopped Trump off that. And it wasn't just with you, was it?
It was with another student in my grade. And so when you put all these stories together, there's definitely something going on. There was a deliberate attempt to censor and to silence someone's freedom of speech.
All right. When you realized, and there's the other student, his name is Grant?
Grant, yeah.
All right. And clearly Grant's shirt has been
so blatant,
photoshopped.
yes.
There's no doubt about what had happened there. The big question is, what happened? Any idea?
I don't know. I guess someone just didn't like our president and wanted to not have him in the yearbook, but that's taking away mine, Grant's, and my sister's freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Sure. Keep in mind, Donald Trump is the President of the United States today. It's a part of history. It's not like they can just Photoshop that away. He's the President. Maybe somebody doesn't appreciate that back in the Photoshop department.
And this is where I think that with everything that's going on in today's country and stuff, this is where it's got to end. You can call anyone names, you can say whatever you want, but censoring someone's freedom of speech and freedom of expression is where we've got to stop where this stuff happens. It's insane.
Sure. And we've got an image of your sister, who is the freshman class president?
Correct.
And she submitted a quote, and it was, I like thinking big. If you're going to be thinking anything, you might as well think big. That's a quote from President Donald Trump, and they didn't even put her quote in there, even though she submitted it on time and asked the advisor if they'd gotten it, right?
Yep.
Something seemed kind of fishy.
Something's a little fishy.
All right. So what do you want? We should also point out that the school district said the allegations are disturbing. Indeed, the administration applauds students for becoming involved in politics, making their voices known, and taking an active part in our democracy. There's a statement right there. What do you, so they're going to, I understand your mom's going to meet with school officials later today to try to figure out what happened. What do you want to happen?
I think that it would only be fair to make sure that all the yearbooks are reissued with our photos fully intact the way they should be, and with my sister's quote into the yearbook. And I think also that the people or person who did this should be held responsible, because it is a violation of mine and other people's First Amendment rights, and that's wrong.
So essentially you want to find out who the Photoshopper is. You want to unmask them.
We want to unmask the Photoshopper.
All right. Well, the meeting is a little later on today, and we will share tomorrow with our Fox and Friends viewers what happened. All right.
Definitely.
Wyatt, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. What do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, coming up, the mainstream media says the weekend's massive protests around the country were anti-Muslim. But were they?
Are you out here protesting against Islam or against Sharia law?
Against Sharia law. I have nothing against Islam.
Pete Hegseth was there. He heard what the mainstream media won't tell you, and he's going to share it coming up next. And pride denied. A teenager blocked from walking at graduation in his military uniform. How the school is trying to spin that way. But first, happy birthday to former President George Herbert Walker Bush. He's got 93 candles on his cake down in Houston today. Well, this weekend was Fox Fan Weekend. People from all over the country flew to New York to be with us, and there, let's start in the beginning. There's Janice and also Ainsley and little Ainsley's baby Hayden and me wearing the Fox Fan sunglasses. And there are the Ducey girls. Mary came up from Washington, D.C., and Sally Ducey attended as well. A good time with all the free food for the Ducey clan.
Oh, that's great. And then who is this? That's Jillian. There's Brian. Oh, and that's Rob Schmidt. And who are you with, Brian?
That's the Fox guy. Foxbot.
The Foxbot. Oh, look at Janice. How cute. Standing over our faux home plate and swinging. You look, good form. Okay, good. Yeah.
And guys, I was there, but thanks for including me.
Yeah, no, really. I have my family pictures too. I guess they didn't make it. I guess they've seen my family before.
Didn't make the cut.
Well, I'm sure we're going to show
just so
it
you know, my
morning.
family got older.
Messing with you.
All right.
We'll show pictures throughout the morning. That's
right.
a tease. Stay tuned to see his
That's
kid.
right.
And
We've
Pete,
got
what were you
lots
wearing,
more.
just in case we don't see any pictures?
Yeah, you won't see it.
Meanwhile, many in the media portrayed the nationwide protests against Sharia law over the weekend as a protest against Islam.
The clashes erupting into brawls here at home over Islam.
Protesters and counter-protesters squaring off across the country tonight, either against the threat of Islamic law or in defense of Muslim Americans.
Activists say anti-Sharia groups promote a distorted view of Islam.
What? But does that paint? Do you want me to read?
Yeah, it says Brian.
Oh, it did? I didn't even see my name on that.
Yeah.
What did it say? Can you roll it back a little? Just roll it back a little?
There you go.
I didn't see my name on that. But that doesn't paint an accurate picture. Go ahead, Ainsley.
That's because our own Pete Hegseth, he went out to the protesters and he talked to them to find out what they were really protesting, and it wasn't Islam.
It's not that, no, because we knew that's how the mainstream media would characterize it.
Right.
And there were 28 of these protests across the country. There was one right here in Foley Square in New York City. So I went down there. I said, rather than the characterization, let's ask the protesters themselves why they're there. And this is what they said.
Today there's a protest going on to protest Sharia law, which is an extreme version of Islam.
I don't think that killing people or mistreating women is a religion.
So you're not out here, are you out here protesting against Islam or against Sharia law?
Against Sharia law. I have nothing against Islam.
I want to make sure that we're aware of everything that Sharia is, everything extremist Islam stands for, and we're aware of the dangers.
Are you here to protest against Islam?
It's not against Islam. It's against Sharia law.
Every radical Islam come from their law. I mean, do we have to stop that already? America had to be strong about this.
It's not about being against Muslims. It's just being against the ideology of, I guess, murdering homosexuals and treating women as a second class, maybe under a second class citizen, just dehumanizing.
Over in Britain, they were just frogs boiling in water, and now they're dead.
Critics will say that you're anti-Muslim. Are you anti-Muslim?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think what needs to happen really is a reformation of the religion from the inside, and I feel like that needs to start with Muslims. So we need Muslims. The fact is that none of these people would want to kick out Muslims from this country. That's not what we're about here. At least that's my understanding of America.
Pete, who organized this event?
Well, an organization called Act for America, but it was ultimately a number of different organizations that came together to say, hey, we're not against Islam. We're patriots who love this country. We see what happens in Europe when we don't have the kind of commitment to a shared collective identity. We want to make sure that the radical forms of Sharia law don't make their way quietly or silently into America. So we're going to stand up with our First Amendment right.
And so the people that were against that protest were against, are they in support of honor killing? Are they support of disrespect towards gays? I mean, do you know what these people actually subscribe to?
I don't think
with Sharia law.
Of course, if they really understood what Sharia law would do to people, they wouldn't be out there counter-protesting. Instead,
I'm embarrassed for
Why
them.
doesn't the media? Why does the media say that then? Why are they saying these people are anti-Islam? They're not. They're anti-Sharia law.
Because if you even dip your toe into the water, you're anti-Muslim, right? But when you talk to these people, they understand what they're protesting against, and it's not Islam. It's you're welcome here. Right. Just believe in the Constitution, not a separate religious set of laws.
Surely. All right, Pete. Thanks for going
guys.
to that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Fox Fan Weekend as well.
We'll see you later, maybe.
Busy.
I guess he was there. I'm not sure.
Oh, he was there. I saw him. I spent a lot of time with him.
Right. Again.
All right.
I'll take your word for it.
22 minutes before the top of the hour, Jillian's got some headlines.
Yes, I do. Good morning to you guys. Good to see you, Pete. Good morning to you at home. A man freed after 17 years in prison thanks to a suspect who not only looks exactly like him, but get this, they've got the same first name. Richard Jones on the left was convicted of armed robbery in Kansas back in 1999. This was based on eyewitness testimony. Lawyers then found a picture of his doppelganger on the right, you can see, during a recent court hearing. The same witness couldn't tell them apart. Now, the other man who lived near the crime scene testified that he wasn't the robber. Interesting turn of events there. So a high school student barred from walking at graduation because of his service uniform. Harlan Fletcher, a U.S. Army Reserve medic, says he was originally told it was okay to wear his Army blues. But when he showed up to the ceremony in California, administrators turned him away.
They said they had extra cap and gown. I said, sorry, I can't do that. That's defacing the uniform. That's against, the uniform policy.
The school has apologized to Fletcher, thanking him for his service. A food critic is sparking outrage online for saying you shouldn't eat Chick-fil-A. Ryan Sutton's article on Eater.com criticizing the fast food chain for its Christian values and conservative views. The backlash was swift. Ashley tweeting, quote, why? Because it's delicious? Because they pay their employees well? Treat customers with respect? I'll eat there twice today. Another person posting, so basically you hate Chick-fil-A because of the founder's religious beliefs. That's actual bigotry. And someone tweeting this GIF with the caption, me at Chick-fil-A. So another story now, a real-life political drama playing out on the stage. Corporate sponsors rushing to drop taxpayer-funded Shakespeare in the Park. This after a play portrayed President Trump being brutally assassinated. Delta Airlines and Bank of America both ending their sponsorship of the Public Theater's Julius Caesar. Next hour, we'll be joined by someone who saw the play in person. That's definitely getting a lot of attention, guys, this morning, the last couple of days especially.
And the New York Times and also American Express still sponsoring that event.
And using public dollars.
Absolutely.
The public theater.
Right.
Yeah.
Jillian, thank you very much.
That's why I stay home and watch Netflix. That's what I would do. All right.
Yeah, but you're using my password.
Oh, that's true. That's a
Is that
problem.
happening?
But yeah, it is.
You use his password.
No, he's kidding.
No.
All right.
Janice, big weekend for Janice over the weekend.
Absolutely. I was talking to your husband yesterday, and as it turns out, he got remarried this weekend.
He did. Oh, I mean, it's been 10 years. We got married at City Hall 10 years ago, and my husband, a few months ago, we were catching up on the kids' day, and he was like, we got a big anniversary coming up. Maybe we should get married
at church. Make it legitimate. And I thought that was a beautiful idea. My kids got to take part in the wedding. Father Gary at Holy Trinity, Upper West Side, hosted the beautiful event that we had. Joshua Zuckerman took beautiful pictures here. There he is, Father Gary. And it was just such a special, I mean, we're not really religious, but religion has been part of our lives. We're Catholic. And after we baptized our kids and then Matthew went through his Holy First Communion, we thought it would be really special to do it in the church. And it really was. You can't even really explain it, but it just feels so special to be in, you know, the house of God,
Right.
and to make it legitimate.
Oh, well, we get it. The Duceys, Mr. and Mrs. Ducey got renewed our vows in the church, I think at our 15th anniversary.
I
And it was
highly
fantastic.
recommend it. I highly recommend it. You know, our love is very strong. We've been through a lot in these last 10 years, a lot. And to have our kids there, I mean, Matthew was an altar boy. Father Gary made sure that all the children that were there were participating. We had beautiful flower girls there, and it was just such a beautiful moment.
And no one objected, right? This was no controversy.
No, thank goodness.
Right.
You know, it was up till the last minute, and I could have been the runaway bride on the Upper West Side, but it didn't happen.
It could have been Napolitano. We would have showed up and created chaos.
Well, congratulations. I
Thank
think
you for
it's
showing
beautiful.
those pictures. Thank you for everybody taking part and saying such wonderful messages on Facebook and Twitter.
And he serves our great city. He's a firefighter, so we are so honored.
Thank you. Love you,
for
Sean,
his-
if you're
his
watching.
service. And your boys are precious.
Here's to another 50.
Yeah,
All right.
good. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, 18 minutes now before the top of the hour, next on our rundown, another Democrat cursing up a storm. Uh-oh.
Has he kept any of these promises? No. No.
What the heck is that? Have the Dems gone too far? We'll debate it with the Woodhouse brothers, and hopefully they'll keep it clean.
And the White House set to unveil a major jobs plan today, led by Ivanka Trump. She is here live at the top of the hour.
Excellent.